on the table. Long enough by presents to put them under the tree for their own families. They asked if I'd be willing to go to a similar meeting later that evening over in neighboring Gresham. So I did. And I found a room that had about 3 times the amount of people. And didn't just represent Gresham, but represented communities in Fairview, and Troutdale, and East Portland. And they said, we're ready to open. And from there is where what became a New Year's Day movement really began. And we started to bring in communities like Malala, and Estacada, and Tigard, and Newburgh, and Madras, and the Dalles, and Independence, all throughout the Willamette Valley. I've been having conversations with people in Baker City, and Coos Bay, and just all over the state. You see, what the governor doesn't realize, and maybe it's because she's from Portland, is that the Main Street small businesses in our communities make up the heart and soul of our local communities throughout this state. Now, Sandy, we had a pretty unprecedented wildfire season. Not nearly as bad as Malala and Estacada that were right around us in that area. But we had our entire community was evacuated from their homes there for a while. And the first place as mayor that I turned to galvanize the community, get food relief, supplies, and support was our Main Street small business owners. Every time our communities turn to them, they're here for us. Now in their time, we're going to be here for them. You better believe it. So New Year's Day, that movement really began as let's get 2020 behind us. Let's, all the jokes about 2020 being the year from hell. Let's start the year anew. Let's target towards a date that businesses can open en masse and provide each other with some company. Now, we had New Year's Day, okay? And several businesses, lots of businesses in the Portland metro area opened. And in the days preceding, lots have opened. And my waistline certainly reflects that fact as we were going in and dining. And I've gotten to know Brian Mitchell from the Carver Hangar a little bit. And some of you may have seen him on the news recently. Where, so the news cameras show up, and people keep asking me, where do we go? Where's the list of where we should dine in? And the truth is we're never going to give you our damn list. We're never going to tell Governor Kate Brown and her agencies where to go and find our small business owners. We're not stupid, okay? That's not going to happen. But what happened is the media showed up outside of Brian's place and said, well, sir, it's obvious we're dining in today, and we're going to go on the news. You can either join us or not. Well, he decided to join him and get his word out. And God bless this man. He stands there with the camera in his face, and he breaks. And he talks about how it's for his employees. And what he doesn't talk about is how him and his wife, just 2 years earlier, had been in a major motorcycle accident that had them bedridden in the hospital for months. And they own 3 restaurants. And these employees kept those restaurants alive and open. They came and visited him and his wife in the hospital. And now he's been forced to watch as he's had to put these same folks without a job, looking around for the government to be there for them. The one thing we asked him to do is to provide a certain amount of services when things go bad, and they can't even do that. No one's accessing their unemployment checks. And they finally said, like so many other business owners around this state, hell with it. Hell with it. We're going to open. And what people seem to not understand is it's like this is a movement of people just wanting to thumb their nose at the governor. And we certainly have our issues with the governor. We certainly do. But this is more desperate than that. These are people that are truly at the end of their rope. They've had almost a year now of arbitrary rules put in front of them. They've watched as corporate America has thrived while they lose their businesses. They've had capacity in their restaurants limited, so then they reinvested in their businesses for outdoor seating to increase capacity, just to then have another full shutdown come out in front of them. Then to have a partial reopen, you know, that reinvestment, so that you could increase your capacity so you could just barely make it. Well, now you can only use that. Oh, by the way, it's December. It's the middle of winter. We're going to have you sit outdoors. And so they don't have a choice. Now, what I'm asking business owners to do is to join. Is to join the effort. Guys like Brian right now are the tallest blade of grass. Many people nodded here when I said his name. The governor's heard his name. Her agencies have heard his name. Because he was courageous enough to stand up, be accounted for, and to give his business a shot. And he needs all of your support. And he needs the support of local business owners in these communities all throughout Oregon. We need everybody to open their doors. Because that's the point that we're at. Now, business owners, some of you may have 3 months. Some of you may have 2 months. Some of you may be down to weeks. But what I continually ask, though, is if you're not going to join this movement and be part of this and consider opening your doors, if not now, when? And what's the environment going to look like 2 months from now? 3 months from now? And who's going to be left standing to give you support when you need it? When you're to the end of your rope and you have no decision but to open your doors. So when I did this open letter to the governor, it stirred a little bit of some conversation in our community. And it was throughout the holidays, which my wife was very excited about. All these speaking engagements and going around right during Christmas and New Year's. But one of the most amazing thing is we ended up with these families that showed up with, homemade cooked goods, cookies and fudge and letters that they left at our doorstep. And as I was out and about, one of these were 2 little girls that knocked on the door, and they had a letter. And the letter said, Mayor, thank you so much for standing up for our family and for our dad who's been put out of work. 2 days later, I was speaking at a rally very similar to this, and I came home, and my wife had spent the day with Sandy Helping Hands. It's our local charitable organization, giving out Christmas gifts to families in need. She takes the bike down from the truck. She walks up to the door. She knocks on the door, and it's those same 2 little girls. And that's why we're here fighting, you guys. That's why I travel around to communities like this here today. There's a moment in time. We didn't ask for this moment. We didn't go looking for it. It came to us. And the consequences are steep. And after weeks like this week, it feels weird. Makes us nervous. Makes me nervous. I don't like where we're at either. That's where we're at. We're here. And it's time.
It's our time.
It's our time. It's time that we stand up and be counted for. And I do these crazy things. It's pretty weird. I talk about the Constitution, and I talk about the Declaration of Independence. And when those folks that signed the Declaration of Independence put their names on there, they are under threat of public hangings by the king. They were signing their death warrant. And they decided that the stakes were too high. Now, I'm not saying we're at a moment as extreme as what those folks faced that day. But the consequences are very steep. And if it's not now that we stand up and be counted for, again, when? When is it going to be? So thank you everybody for gathering here today to kind of hear my piece.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having the courage to do what you're doing.
Thank you. You know, people say it takes courage, but I don't understand why people run for elected office and then sit on their hands and close their mouths and don't be accounted for. You know, this is, as I said earlier, it's a time